In this lesson, we're going to learn how to round numbers to the nearest 10, and we will progress on to rounding to the nearest 100 and the nearest 1000. So the first few numbers here already listed on our screen have already been rounded to the nearest 10. As you can see, all of the answers are in the 10 times tables. The final digit will always be a 0. Round the number 73 to the nearest 10. So to the nearest 10 means your answer will be in the 10 times tables. So will 73 round up to 80, or is it nearer to 70? And in this occasion, we would round down and our answer would be 70. Round the number 94 to the nearest 10. So would I round down to 90, or would I round up to 100? Both 90 and 100 are in the 10 times tables. And this time, I would round down again, and I would go to 90. It is closest to 94. Round the number 127 to the nearest 10. So, would I round down to 120, or would I have to round up to 130? And the closer number of the two would be 130. So 127 rounded to the nearest 10 is 130. That's only 3 away, whereas 120 is 7 away. So 130 is the closest number. If the number ends in 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then we round up. For example, 548 would round up to 550. We see the 8 at the end, so we would round the 48 up to 50. 1816, we would round up to 1820. That 6 at the end tells me I would round up. My 16 becomes the 20. If the number ends in 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, then we round down. The number 863, I've got a 3 at the end, so I would round down. My 63 becomes that 60, so 860. 3452, I've got a 2 at the end, so that 52 would round down to 50. 3450. Drag the numbers to the nearest 10. So all of these numbers at the bottom of our screen are going to be rounded to the nearest 10. You have 3 options. I'd like you to work out the answers and then come back to check. You can pause your video. Okay, let's have a look at our answers and see how many you got correct. All of the numbers that would round to the nearest 10, for 90 are 88, 94, and 93. All of the numbers rounded to the nearest 10 that would be 100 are 96, 95, 102, 101, and 98. And to the nearest 10, 107 and 109 would round to 110. Round these numbers to the nearest 10. 367, 4,513. So for 367, would I round up to 370, or would I round down for 360? That time I would round up. That 7 at the end, remember, means I round up. For 4,513, I would round down. The 3 at the end means I would have to go down. Remember, for rounding up, you will need to end in 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. For rounding down, you would end in 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Round these numbers to the nearest 100. So this time it's to the nearest 100, so we're going to end in at least 2 zeros. 2,341, would I round up to 2,400 or down to 2,300? 4,513, would I round up to 4,600 or round down to 4,500? For 2,341, I would round it down to 2,300. 41, that 4 tells me I'm going to round down. For 4,513, I'm going to round down to 4,500. Got 13 at the end. That 1 tells me I'm going to round down. Round these to the nearest 100. I'd like you to work out the answers and then come back to check. $9,782. That number would round up to 9,800. We have 82. That 8 tells me I'm going to round up. For 1,833, for this number on our right, 1,833, we would round down. The 33 is at the end, and that 3 tells me I'm rounding down. Round this number to the nearest 100. 5,517. Would it round up to 5,600 or would it round down to 5,500? So we're going to look at the numbers that are after the hundreds. So we have 17. And that 1 tells me I need to round down. So my answer is 5,500. If I were counting in 100s, then 5,500 is closest to the number we were working with. Round these numbers to the nearest 100. So 6,109. Do I round up to 6,200 or do I round down to 6,100? Again, we're looking at the numbers after the hundreds. A 0 tells me I round down. So if I were counting in 100s, 6,100 is closest to our 6,109. Okay, some more rounding to the nearest 100. Can you round 5,517 to the nearest 100? So after the hundreds, we've got 17. That 1 tells me I'm going to round down. So my final answer is 5,500. Round this number to the nearest 1,000. 3,477. Is 4,000 closer, or do I round down to 3,000? So this occasion I look at the number after my thousands and it's a 4. Tells me I'm going to round down. So 3,000 is the closest number if I were counting in 1,000s. Round this number to the nearest 1,000. We've got 5,460. Do I round up to 6,000 or is it closer to 5,000 and I round down? Again, we look at the number after the thousands. It's a 4 again, so it's telling me that I have to round down, and this number again is closest to 5,000. Round these numbers to 1,000, the nearest 1,000. We've got 1,747. Do I have to round up to 2,000 or is it closer to 1,000 and I round down? Again, let's look at our number after the thousands. It's a 7, and with a 7 we've got to round up. So my nearest 1,000 would be 2,000. Okay, this is our final slide. It's got a few examples of questions that I need you to complete to see if you're able to round to the nearest 10, 100 and 1,000. But let's do the first one together. 1,678 to the nearest 10. Well, I'm going to focus on that 78. And to the nearest 10, 78 is closest to 80. Now to the nearest 100. So we're looking at 678. Well, that is closest to 700, so it's 1,700. And now to the nearest 1,000, we have to look at the whole number. 1,678, well, that is closest to 2,000. Okay, I would like you to try and complete the rest of the table. You can pause your video and then come back to check your answers. 2,271. Well, to the nearest 10, we look at the number after the tens, and it's a 1, so I round down with a 1, so it's 2,270. Now we're on to the nearest 100, so I look at the number after the 100s, and it's a 7, and that tells me I round up, so it's 2,300. Then to the nearest 1,000, I look at the number after the thousands, it's a 2, telling me I round down, so I round down to 2,000. And our final question, 8,457. Rounding to the nearest 10. Well, that 7 tells me that I round up. So it's 8,460. Rounding to the nearest 100, I look at the digit after the 100s. It's a 5, and 5 tells me I round up. So it's 8,500. And my final one, to the nearest 1,000, I look at the digit after the thousands. It's a 4, and with the 4 you round down. So it's 8,000 to the nearest 1,000.